He's the sluggo. Slant and go.
Fellas, Wednesday means Sluggo, episode 66. This episode is aptly titled Watch Out for Cincinnati. Do you know where I got that from? I can't remember.
I don't remember. Who'd they play this weekend? I don't remember.
Some little team that wears green. But anyway, episode 66, Marty Coleman, Kyle, Texas. I knew I was going to get that wrong. Can't do it. That is Casey the Beef Cregan from Callaboogie Sound in South Carolina or somewhere about those parts, right, Case?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
And that is Zach Locks Parker. He is the honorary mayor of Pooler, Georgia.
I have the key to the city.
Oh, fellas, what's happening this week, Beef? How's your week going?
It's going, man. It's going. It's been a rainy couple days here in South Carolina, and but it's still 70 some odd degrees. So every day I ask my parents, we always have to talk weather here, how cool it is in the mornings, because it's still really pretty nice weather-wise, even though the rain is kind of taken over. But everything's going well. I'm excited. Just back safe from my weekend at Clemson. Can't wait to talk about it and talk about it with you guys.
Yeah, Nelson chimes in. He beat out Kevron tonight, and he says Guam, which we were talking about shirts before. Beef was talking about how expensive his backwards Renfro shirt is. This was like $8.75 at I don't even remember some website, probably in China or something.
That's why you're a lot smarter than me, Marty. Let's just say that.
Maybe not. I bought a shirt with Guam Community College on, so that's debatable. Locks, what is happening in Pooler, Georgia, besides you becoming the honorary mayor?
Not much. Same thing. I'm in the same weather pattern there as Beef now, which is weird to say. We're catching the same storm, so it's soaker out here right now. But I switched up my shirts, going with the old school Braves. Not a huge Braves fan, but the SEC let me down last week, so I'm gonna root for the Braves this week.
Wow.
All right. Kevron checks in, says, good evening, y'all. I'm all in daily. Kevron, you are second today, but welcome in. Glad to have you all the way from Cope, South Carolina. Yeah, Zach, no SEC is you're not representing tonight. We'll get to your picks in a little while, but we'll call you Big Ten Zach this week.
Who knew?
One thing I was thinking about too is I think I've only had two overlaps of my shirts in the 66 some odd weeks, but Locks is literally now worn two.
Three. We're three. Yeah.
He's got the Dr. Locks, right?
Yeah.
That
only comes out when I make when I'm better than 1 and 2 on the week. This only happened once. So
yeah, we'll see a whole bunch of red in the standings in the pick summary, fan. You're not the only one. I think we've all had our weeks. Mm-hmm. All right, fellas, Clemson, Boston College last week. It was a score fest by Clemson standards. It was 19-13. Again, I saw glimpses, right? And you think they're going up and down the field, and I'm posting highlights of these, right? There's 59-yard touchdown runs and Mafas doing spins and going down to the 8. And we get the one long touchdown run, 4 field goals. But there was some offense. I think they had over 400 yards of total offense. So I'm going to try and go with the positive spinning out of the Boston College win. Positive is they won, right? I don't know. Zach, takeaways from last Saturday?
Not positive here. Now, we were texting about it. Didn't seem like there's a lot of sense of urgency, especially in the second half. It just, put the team to bed, put Boston College away and step on their neck, something. And it was just, like you said, flashes of brilliance, and then 3 and out of some amazing way that you hadn't seen before. DJ 13 and 28 again, 13 completions in 4 whole quarters of football. Never would I ever expected to see this far along in the season of just this, ineptitude. I picked him to win the Heisman earlier before the year, after seeing the 2 games last year. We've gone over it ad nauseum. The good news was he was in the stadium, I heard, until like 1:30 in the morning, still practicing, which is good because he needs to. So I'll let it lie there. But I'm glad it's a week off. My stress level was lower this week.
I am too, actually. I mean, we're back to the 2010-ish. Every week is stressful. They still win most weeks. At least they have 3-2. But every week is stressful. I mean, Boston College had the ball on the 10-yard line with a minute to go, right? And fumbled it away. And I'm hearing a lot talking about Clemson from Clemson fans, nauseum in some form, ad nauseum, nauseated, something like that. And I now know, Casey, who was sitting behind you in Death Valley. I think it was Locks, right?
No. And I know Locks was disappointed. This guy was not. This wasn't even disappointment. It was embarrassing. But yeah, John Chancey said it perfectly here. I thought the first play of the game, I got really excited. They ran like that end around to Justin Ross, where the whole offensive line went right. Ross came around as going the other way. I called it a counter play in my article today, and took it for 10 yards. A couple other big plays in that first drive, and then all of a sudden just stalled out, had to punt. Still felt good about it. Second drive comes out, Kobe Pace takes a run. You should have seen Matt Bockhorst coming off the field. He was pumped, and the whole place was feeling it. And again, the next drive, it's just like this game is over. They need one more drive. It really felt that way in the stadium. One more drive right after to answer, I guess, again, the questions, and it just stalled out. So that's the infuriating thing, I think, that's going on with Clemson and Clemson fans. I think that's one reason that they are so disappointed. The line played great, and they kind of had a little rotation going. Bockhorst was able to play guard this week, which was nice to kind of get him back in his normal position. There was another play real quick, and then I'll let somebody else speak. DJ had there were 6 drops by the receivers on throws that were really pretty good. They were catchable. They were all catchable, including that last drive. And he had Ngata wide open back shoulder. DJ, you missed a lot of throws, but the receivers had plenty of drops too. Yes, he did, no question. But the ones that needed to be caught were dropped. Ngata dropped 2 on big third down plays. One was the perfect throw to his back shoulder in the end zone that would have put Clemson up and put the game out of reach. But there was a play that he had Ngata going down the sideline on the left, and he was wide open. And he actually ended up throwing it and completing it. But he took a hitch. He dropped back. He saw Ngata and then looked right. Like, I don't know what he was looking for. And then turned and threw it real fast. If he takes his time, takes a breath, and throws it, it's 6. There's just some tweaking, I think, that needs to be done for DJ. But, man, he's got all the arm talent in the world. He can make all the throws, just a little consistency. So,
yeah, Kevron says, on the Clemson-BC game, BT Potter had a blast, and Clemson is going to be Syracuse on next Friday. Here we go, playing on Fridays. But everybody plays on Friday now, right? I mean, Coastal's whole season is on Friday. Very weird to have Clemson play on a Friday. And I got some thoughts on that coming up. But you're right, Beef. I mean, I thought if they would have scored and gone up 14 points, the game was over, and they would have.
The way that defense was playing? Yeah. Heck yeah.
But they didn't, and they can't. And that's, 2 weeks in a row, you kind of felt like that at North Carolina State, right? If they'd have gone up on them 14-0, that game would have been over. And then, of course, Georgia Tech too, right? And they ended up scoring 14 points in the whole game. So I think they're closer. And I'm a big Will Shipley fan, but I really loved what I saw out of the running backs last week, and ergo the offensive line. Now, will that happen again the next time they play? Really, your guess is as good as mine.
It was kind of nice to have a 2-man rotation in the backfield, and I saw C.J. Spiller. There was a big run by, I think it was Maffa down the sideline that he spun. I think it was that one, and Pace was about to go in. And CJ grabbed him, pulled him back, and was like, "No!" And this is the three plays they couldn't score inside the red zone, inside the 10. Yeah. And he didn't touch the ball again. So I'm thinking there's got to be some disconnect on the sideline too. Like this guy just had a big run. Okay, you don't go to him on first down, but you got to try him second and third down, right? Isn't that the reason why you're not letting Kobe Pace back in? That you're going to keep the hot hand there? He didn't touch the ball again the rest of that series. Like that's the stuff that even novice fans like myself are just scratching our heads about. Going, you see it while you're there. You see CJ going, no, you stay out there. Like, and it looked like he was like, let's feed the hot hand. And then he didn't see it at the ball again. It was just that's the play calling stuff that I think Clemson fans are going crazy about.
And Nelson says Clemson plays on Friday about once every year. We played at Syracuse on Friday in 2007. Yeah, that's not a good memory, Nelson.
Yeah.
But yeah, thanks to that memory.
You knew he was coming up with that one. You knew it.
I need my box. On the Ngata play, Casey, I know you were at the game, but they said on TV, if he hits Ngata in stride, that's a touchdown. He threw it down
no question
around his kneecaps. I didn't notice him looking off. But, hey, guess what? If he doesn't look off, there are going to be fans that complain about that too, right? He's staring him down. The old everything is because he's staring him down and Joey Batson. Got it all. That covers it, fellas. That covers the Clemson. The quarterback is staring down the receivers, and Joey Batson is too old. Hey, there were some other games, Zach, right up your alley here. Georgia just crushed the soul out of Arkansas. Alabama did the same for Ole Miss for a half, and then toyed with them in the second half. You're the SEC expert here. I can't figure out Georgia. Is it good to lose to them or bad? Because Clemson was a total embarrassment against Georgia, apparently, to every podcast I listened to. Right. But Arkansas, it's Georgia, and they're really, really good. Apparently they weren't really, really good when they played Clemson. Clemson was just horrible. But now all of a sudden they're really, really good. What's your takeaway from these two big SEC games?
Well, a couple things. Georgia didn't have the starting quarterback. JT Daniels didn't play. And lucky for them that they had Stetson Bennett, who played plenty last year, because he's a serviceable quarterback. He's not great. He's not a big dude, whatever. Actually, Arkansas had more passing yards than Georgia did in the game with 83-72. Because
that sounds like a smoking for Jesus score right there.
Georgia's running the football like crazy, 273 rushing yards, and looked great too. And defense looked fantastic again with another defensive score. They blew their doors off right in the first quarter. That thing was put to bed early, which was kind of a shock, but not really a huge surprise. Arkansas has been on this tough run, if you think about it. This week they have another tough game, and then next week they play Auburn. So they're kind of running the gauntlet right now. You knew something was going to have to give for them. So Georgia looks great. If they could get JT Daniels and actually get a halfway serviceable passing game, I think they'd really just surge right up the charts in everybody's thoughts and opinions, next to Alabama. I think it's still Alabama. It's right here. And Georgia's right there. But that defense is really bringing them up. Alabama looked great again. That as well as everybody. Really disappointed in Ole Miss. Lane Kiffin had 2 weeks to prepare, only mustered 21 points. My over got killed. They had 80. I really thought they were going to, be another score fest here. But, Matt Corral just couldn't get it together. They kept on going for this fourth down thing, which I was like all about at the beginning. And then it was like, okay, they know what you're trying to do here. Get rid of the football and live to fight another day. And they got behind too fast. And Bryce Young looks like a great quarterback too. He looks like a Heisman front runner right now. So that's my SEC 2 minutes for the week.
Well, it wasn't that it was 42-21 necessarily, but it was 35-7 in the third quarter. It was basically over. And I love numbers. Beef knows that, but I've been driven crazy by this. He made the right calls by going for it, and the trade-off is right. You're giving up perhaps a closer game to try and actually win the game. I get that logically. I understand it. You've got a fourth down against Alabama and whatever, a yard to go or 3 yards, and you got a better chance of winning the game if you actually go for it and make it instead of punting and give out. I get all that. But the trade-off as a fan watching it, the game was over in the first quarter, basically, right?
Agreed.
Beef, what's your take on the SEC this weekend?
Yeah, Lane Kiffin came out right in the pregame speech and said, "Get your popcorn ready." So I turned around and went and get some popcorn at the concession stands, and by the time I came back, it was 35-7. So I don't know where my popcorn was supposed to be. I mean, I had talked to myself into both of these games being good too, and thankfully the folks that I tailgated with this week had TVs. The two groups that I tailgated with both had TVs, so we were able to watch most of these games. But we were flipping pretty. House gonna like this. We were flipping pretty quickly to the Notre Dame Cincinnati game because it was at least a little bit competitive early on. The Georgia Alabama game, the Georgia and the Alabama game were not quickly, and it was a snooze fest.
Hey, I'm the worst host in the world because I forgot to talk about your trip to Death Valley and what you experienced while we were talking about Clemson. So
I wrote about it. Go get it. Go write about it.
Yeah, you had an interesting, not a seatmate, or I guess the guy was behind you, making a fool of himself. So what was your experience like?
Well, real quick, I just want to say I wrote about it my 2 cents last week was talking about how I'm at peace with the remainder of the season. And I truly believe that this team's going to end up 10-2 or 9-3 and probably still win the Atlantic somehow, some way. I just have that feeling. So I went into the stadium this week and everyone, of course, everyone's pissed off. But the place was packed and it was really loud. The guy behind me just had every comment in the world. It just brought me back to like 2008, 2003. It brought me back to early fandom. It really did. People keep running their mouths constantly and speaking of ad nauseum about the whole Bowden and West days. And it was true on Saturday night. Now, yes, two different groups of athletes, two different caliber of athletes on each of those coaches' teams than we have today. However, the fans were legitimately that way in the stands, especially the guy behind me whose knee kept hitting me in the back, and he didn't care at all. He just kept screaming about, "Oh, these are 5 stars. What makes these guys 5 stars? I can't believe that's a 5-star play. That's not a 5-star." It was just so negative, and it really, really brought me back to those days. And everyone's screaming for Pumachan and the walk-on Hunter Helms as well, Kevron's favorite player. Everyone's screaming for both those guys. How can we not have anybody better? And I'm thinking to myself, like, you're not at practice every week, guy. Like, every day. You don't see they're probably not better if they're not in the game at this point, So it just brought me back to the days of yore that I say, and it wasn't good. It wasn't positive. As loud and as boisterous and as great as it sounded on TV, the individual conversations were really negative to the point where I had to leave with 4 minutes left and go around and watch the game with a friend, a family friend.
I got to know, did you engage him?
No, I actually did. I actually did because
you've grown.
No. I didn't engage him. I engaged him in my passive aggressive way.
That makes more sense.
Yeah. Not in my starting a fight because he's a fellow Tiger fan, right? So when Ross came out of in the second half with no pads on, he started screaming expletives, and he goes, "Well, what's wrong with Ross?" And I go, "Hold on a second, I got a guy." Right? That's typical New Jersey thing. So I send a text message to JP Priester, and I'm like, "What's going on with Ross?" And he just wrote back, "Hurt," because he wasn't given any information, even though he was roaming the sidelines. And I turned around and I said, "Hey, I just want to let you know I got a little inside information that Ross is hurt." And he goes, "Well, what's he hurt?" And he threw all sorts of expletives that aren't safe for this air race. Maybe safe on Chopper Beef, but probably still not. And
wow.
At that point, it was like, yeah, you have a neck injury, which almost cost you your career.
Yeah,
you probably want to be cautious if it's upper body. And then he continued on his calling them names and stuff. And I'm like, why even be a fan if you're just going to start calling people names? And why wear Clemson or any team's gear where you're just going to, you don't have to like everybody on the team, no question. But at least like root for your squad. Good Lord. It was just so negative in my section.
There's not many good things about being old, but one good thing about being old is winning or losing a football game is not the end of my world, right? I mean, we all got kids and families and stuff, and I'm not going to let that. It'll ruin my Saturday for about 2 hours. Then I'll be about 7 or 8 blue cans in, as Zach would say, and all of a sudden it doesn't matter as much anymore. So I can't do that anymore. I can't base my happiness on whether Clemson wins or loses, and that's picked the right year for that to happen, by the way. Because I remember John Malkovich used to say college football fans they're the people who complain that one 18-year-old can't throw the ball 50 yards to another 18-year-old, but they can't find their car in the parking lot, right? So that's the old time. All right, back to regularly scheduled program. Stanford and Oregon. Oregon tripped up. Shocker. Oregon is not the greatest team in the history of the world. Beef, did you set any eyes on this game?
I actually did, yeah, because I had to catch it late and caught it on Sunday. Just watched a little recap of it. What a game, man. Stanford tried to give it away. They went up big for a while. Oregon came out, as you knew they probably would, and stormed back and actually went up. Did they go up 14 points? I believe they went up 14 on Stanford. Stanford battled back, scored, and beat them in overtime. I just – you got to like the moxie of that Stanford squad. I mean, they're beating teams like USC, losing to teams like Cal, and then beating Oregon. It's just – I don't know what they are. They're kind of
they're Pac-12.
Schizophrenic.
They're Pac-12, and I wonder if the Pac-12 is now done for the playoff, because we know the SEC is almost for sure going to get 2 teams, right? Mm-hmm. And I imagine the Big Ten is going to get 1, and at least 1 other. The ACC is not getting any. And so the Big 12 maybe, Texas, Oklahoma, we're going to talk about in a few minutes. I have some thoughts on that. Cincinnati and Notre Dame. Now, Zach, I heard you under your breath as Casey was talking about this game earlier. What's your takeaway from Cincinnati and Notre Dame?
Well, I was going to say, if you were, tailgating and watching that game, I hope you were drinking Red Bull, because it was like a pillow fight. It was hard to watch, man. I will say the Oregon-Stanford game that you were talking about, like, remember, I picked the over-under, and that's why sports gambling is it should be allowed everywhere, because I had the over, there was no chance. All of a sudden, it goes into overtime. I'm jumping up and down going, come on, baby. One more score, and with the over hits, and it didn't happen. But all of a sudden, it was interesting, But
yeah,
Cincinnati and Notre Dame, my biggest takeaway is Cincinnati, A, has a defense, and B, has a good quarterback. That Desmond Ridder had 297 yards, 2 touchdowns. Looked really good. Looked like a men versus boys out there at times. He's a very good quarterback, I thought. Notre Dame just, if you said it last week, struggle win. Is Notre Dame any good? Well, they actually faced a team that had it together and couldn't pull off the win one more time. So we'll see where they're at again coming up this week, versus Virginia Tech.
And Beef's got a bet on that game this week.
He does, yeah. So
friend of this show and friend of Chop and Beef, Michael Palkovic, I listened to his podcast yesterday. He had a different take on Desmond Ridder and didn't think he was that good. Said, he's got some tools, he can run and whatever, but he was not impressed by Desmond Ridder. I thought he did pretty well considering he was on the road at Notre Dame. I mean, What exactly were we expecting out of him? I did not realize until I listened to a podcast about a day or so before that how bad Notre Dame's offensive line was. I mean, somebody called them the worst in America, and this was before Clemson and Boston College. So I was like, well, if he thinks they're worse than Clemson's, how bad is Notre Dame's offensive line? Now remember, Pauk is the one who showed the picture on social media of 4 preseason All-American offensive line, which goes to Casey's point of the preseason stuff is ridiculous, right? They had like 4 of them that are All-American, and now they're no good. They're none. They're not good at all. Casey, your takeaway on Notre Dame, Cincinnati?
Yeah, they started Jack Cohn. He threw an interception. Then they brought in that Buckner kid, the heralded freshman quarterback, and apparently he just runs the ball, as Pauk said in his podcast, 5'0" 100-0 pod. And then they brought in Drew Pine, and Drew Pine definitely showed flashes of Ian Book. I mean, that's one thing I've said about Notre Dame is that you had Ian Book there for 100 years. Heck, I'm wearing the Renfro shirt. It felt like Book was at Notre Dame longer than Renfro was at Clemson. And so they had a Drew Pine kind of in the same mold, and he kind of tried to fight him, bring him back, and brought him back to within 4 points. I thought Desmond Ridder, he's a highly sought after prospect for the NFL next year. I think he's probably put his name right there at the top, towards the top of the Heisman race. He showed up big when they needed him. They needed him in the end to have a big drive when Notre Dame cut it to 4. And he did, and he answered the bell. So I was highly impressed with Ridder at times. Again, I think that he obviously, that defense of Notre Dame is pretty good. They really are. I don't like Kyle Hamilton as much as Pauk likes him. I've seen him out of position multiple times in games, but he is one of the best DBs in the country. That's a good defense that Cincinnati beat, and that's a good team and well-coached Cincinnati as well.
Well, to Pauk's point, Jack Cohn helped a lot with the interception in the end zone, and
that didn't help at all. That was completely momentum right there. Boom.
Okay, I got to say, I got to take one shot at Pauk here. I think the nicest thing he said about Cincinnati on his podcast was they're not a terrible football team. That's about the nicest thing he said about Cincinnati after they beat Notre Dame in Notre Dame Stadium, which, of course, Clemson couldn't do last year, but different teams, obviously. Okay, back to the SEC. Zach, Kentucky got outgained by Florida and beat up and down the field, but they did have a blocked field goal for a touchdown and ended up beating Florida, another SEC team, down the tubes. And speaking of SEC teams down the tube, Texas A&M lost to Mississippi State. What's your takeaways on these two?
Florida blew that game. I mean, let's just say it the way it is. It's a great win for Kentucky. Don't get me wrong, but now all of a sudden Kentucky's ranked. Are they good? I don't think they're that great. But Florida had 15 penalties for 115 yards. That's absurd. And afterwards, Dan Mullen came out and was like, not taking any responsibility again. And, that's a coaching thing. I mean, have the guys prepared. You can't be throwing away 115 yards in penalties. It's ridiculous. So, I mean, there are a bunch of blowhards down Florida. I think Florida, Georgia is still going to be a good game, I think. And Florida still may have an opportunity to beat them. But Georgia's defense keeps on playing like this. I don't think Florida's offense is going to be able to put enough together. I didn't see any Mississippi State, Texas A&M. Great win for Mike Leach. He really needed that. I think he might have been, getting close to the hot seat down there. But just goes to show maybe Texas A&M is just really not that great. And they're probably going to get beat on this week. They got Alabama coming up, which is supposed to be a great game before the season started. Now A&M has 2 losses. So.
Yeah, and that was I heard somebody on a podcast saying that was before the season. They looked at the schedule.
Yeah.
This was
I think it was Herb Street.
Yeah. Well, I also heard a CBS guy say that they looked at the schedule and circled that game and penciled it in. It's going to be Saturday night prime time, and now it's like, who cares, right?
The radar, yeah.
Who cares? John Chansey checks in, says Florida was mullening. I can't even say that. So I can't even say that sober, Chansey. Okay, Texas over TCU. I wanted to talk about this for a second. A lot of times, young guys are overhyped, and they come in with a big reputation. How many times a year do we hear he's one of the best running backs in the country? I hear that like 75 times, and there can't be 75 best running backs in the country. But I'm here to tell you, Bijan Robinson of Texas is one of the best running backs in the country. And I'll talk about him more when we get to Notre Dame. But the guy on the other side Saturday, Zach Evans from Texas Christian, TCU, for everybody who's not in Texas, from TCU, the one that committed to Georgia, then decommitted, and then committed like 18 times to 18 different schools in 18 days. He's really good too. He's not quite at Bijan's level, and maybe because he doesn't have the team around him. Those two guys put on a show. Evans is somebody you would call toolsy. You can see it there. He may need a little refinement, but he's going to be really good for TCU.
He's a freshman, right?
Yes, if he doesn't do something stupid. I was just about to say he's going to, because there were some red flags, obviously, right? Georgia let him out of his commitment, but he's doing great, supposedly.
Clemson was high on him, too. He was high on Clemson, and Clemson was high on him, too. I followed his recruitment. I forgot that he went to TCU, but we turned that game on for a quick second, and I saw one of his carries. But, yeah, he is talented, man. I saw his high school film and said that's a man among boys, and he was getting a lot of Reggie Bush kind of comparison. So we'll see. I wish nothing but the best for the kid, but like you said, obviously there were some flags there, and hope he can keep his head on straight.
And I think Robinson had 35 carries. A guy is a bellwether. Keep that in mind for when I talk about Texas and Oklahoma in a few minutes. This week, two really, really good running backs. It was what I wanted to say. They both lived up to all the billing that I've heard. Penn State at Iowa, top 5 matchup really doesn't sound like a top 5 matchup. And then I want to talk for a minute about Oklahoma and Texas. I watched the Oklahoma-Kansas State game on replay. I don't know why. I'd set to record every college football game, but it was there during my lunch hour. I said, well, let me see how bad Oklahoma is. And I came out of this game because I heard Spencer Rattler still wasn't very good again that game. He did have a bad interception, but he was 22 of 25 for 298 yards. And Clemson fans, would you take 22 for 25?
I was just going to say that.
But anyway, it was beside that. I've heard a lot about how much better the Oklahoma defense is. Now, I just talked about Bijan Robinson, and true enough, Kansas State only had, 89 or 90-something yards rushing, but that included sacks. But there were a crap load of missed tackles by Oklahoma. They did everything in the world to give this game away. They let Kansas State recover an onside kick. They were up by 10 with a minute to go. They got a personal foul on the touchdown. They had to kick off from the 20. They kicked it all the way to the 6. The guy ran it back for a touchdown. Then they did another onside kick, and the guy went to kick it, and Lincoln Riley called a timeout, and it went right to his man. They had to redo it again, and they got it and hung on to win. But the point is, Clemson's struggling, Oklahoma's struggling, but Oklahoma's winning and struggling. I wonder if that ends this week because Sark has his boys playing, and the tackling I saw from Oklahoma is not going to work against Bijan Robinson. Yeah. And I think Sark's going to scheme it up, and I wish I would have put it in my 3. But it's a crazy game. This is a game that made me a legend in Texas because I was around all these Texas fans, and they said, this is the greatest game ever. There's nothing like it. And I said, well, why is there nothing like it? It's a conference game at a neutral site. And I was like, Florida, Georgia? I mean, they have apparently that doesn't register in Texas, right? But so that made like 600,000 people mad at me at once. Everybody at the tailgate. I was like, what are you talking about? But anyway, it's hard to pick this game. You never know. A lot of times the underdogs win or at least cover. So I didn't include it in my slate. But I got a feeling Texas is going to have something for them. Saturday, Arkansas, Ole Miss, Georgia, Auburn, and we just talked about Alabama, Texas A&M. What do you take away from any of those games, Zach, or any other one you want to talk about coming up this week?
I mean, honestly, I think it's sad that Penn State, Iowa didn't get College Game Day. I think that's kind of tragic. I mean, these two teams, Penn State gets more love than Iowa does. And just to see Iowa's defense last week versus a Maryland team who I tried to pick, and thank God I didn't, because they had 7 turnovers in the game, which is quite impressive if you think about it. But I mean, it's going to be a good matchup. I'm starting to like the Big Ten, guys. I don't know who I am. Maybe I need to get another shirt. I don't even know myself anymore. So
Casey's got a guy.
He has a guy. Yeah, right?
They're expensive though.
See, I'm out. I got this at Sam's Club.
Big Ten, Zach, we'll start calling him beef. Anything on this week's games?
Yeah, I like that Iowa Penn State game as well, but we'll be traveling down to Florida this weekend to check out some colleges. So I may be maybe on a college campus without football this weekend. But I'm hoping. I like the OU Texas game. I love it. I can't say it. Red River rivalry. I can't ever say it without slowing significantly down. But it's always usually fun. Those colors pop on TV. It's usually midday game. It's just a lot of fun. Seeing the fair in the background is cool. The SEC slate really doesn't wow me at all, although Arkansas Ole Miss kind of piques interest because that's just a contrast to styles, man. That Ole Miss wants to get up and down the field, and Arkansas wants to bloody in a rock fight. So I don't think Alabama Texas A&M is going to be a game. I don't think Georgia Auburn's going to be a game either. I think Georgia's going to run away with that one.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, guys, you know what time it is. It's the time where we screw everything up and feel real bad about ourselves about 7 o'clock on Saturday night. You don't think you could have done any worse if you tried?
Well, I take that as a victory.
These guys aren't doing research, so why should I? Beef, you stink the most.
A true believer in what they're doing in North Carolina. That's why I'm picking Virginia Tech, Tennessee.
I love Spencer Rattler.
I agree with Marty. I don't like this. Look, you smell it, the backdoor cover.
And speaking of smelling it, let's smell it right here. Chrome.
Here it comes.
Here it comes.
Oh.
Okay.
There's a lot of red there.
Yeah, there's a lot of red. I told you guys that before the show. Where are we at? We were at week 5 last week. Locks was 1-2. Beef was 2-1, but he bet the big kahuna on the wrong team, Vanderbilt. That's what you get for betting a grand on Vanderbilt. I was 2-1 and was the only one with a positive week for $574 on the season. Locks is 8-7, Casey's 6-8-1, and I'm 9-6. Locks is down. What's that? $1,618. Casey's down a lot more than that. Casey's got a 7 out there when he started with the 10, and I'm up $395 up, which thrilled with, but also not terribly sad about compared to the two of you. This week's picks. I'll go first again. Okay, Cincinnati coming off the biggest win in school history has to play on Friday night, and they're given 28 points. These are college kids. They've been patted on the back this entire week, told how great they are, right? They're going to crush everybody. They're going undefeated. Short week coming off the biggest win in school history. Obviously, they're better than Temple. Obviously, they're going to beat Temple. But I'm going to take 4 touchdowns, and I'm so confident on this, I'm going to bet 200 Schlegel bucks on it. All right. Don't bet this amount at home, folks. It's scary. Locks, you're up next. Second place. Who's your first pick?
I want to mention real quick, Marty, there might have been a side bet between Beef and I on the over-under, since you're leading by so much, on the over-under of your total bets tonight. So we'll address that.
We'll let you know. I'm writing it
down.
It's true.
You know. It's true. In our text chain over the week, I was threatening to bet $1 for the rest of the year.
You're close. I appreciate triple digits at least, Marty. We were good. That's good. So that's a good start.
I still got 2 picks to go.
Let's just say the under is still hitting.
Yeah, it's still in play. So we're good. But we'll fill you in on that here at the end of the show. But okay, so I'm up. What do you have me at here first? This will be my favorite go-to team, the Friday night Coastal Carolina Chanticleers. I got them at 19.5. I have no idea why I picked this. I feel really awful about it. The more I look at it, I'm wondering if I picked the wrong side. They're playing Arkansas State, who is 1-4, and they're terrible, but they ranked 129th in FBS scoring defense, allowing 45.6 points per game. That kind of was what allured me to it. But last time Coastal played an away game, they've only played 1 so far this year, and they only scored 28 points versus Buffalo and won by 3 points. So I'm going to bet 300 on this one because I don't feel real good about it.
So he makes fun of me and bets a whole $100.
I'll bet more than you because I have to. And that's the only reason.
Exactly. All right. Coastal minus 18.5, minus 103. Beef, before we get to you, John Chansey says UConn's favorite this week. Who's betting that one? Chansey, I tried to get one of these guys to bet on that game, and they would not do it. They would not.
I looked at it so hard because I wanted. If I bet the toilet bowl last week, this might have been the Porta-John bowl.
That started as a pick'em, and now UConn's favored by 3.5.
Yeah, that's where I saw the 3 yesterday, and I was like, I'm staying away because the FPI index has UMass as like 71%. I'm like, where's that 3 coming from? Maybe there's injuries, but I certainly wasn't going to go deep diving into UMass and UConn's injuries. But anyway, I can't wait to watch it somehow, some way, if it's on TV. My first pick this week, actually, kind of contrary to what Marty said, and that's how I am so negative. I'm going Notre Dame -1. They're playing coming off a bounce back week at Virginia Tech. Tough place to play, but I'm going to go with Notre Dame. I just feel like they're going to start Drew Pine this week. They're going to have a little bit of a different game plan going into Virginia Tech, and I just can't trust Justin Fuente and the Hokies. One week they're fantastic. The next week they have you scratching your head. I love Braxton Bowmeister, their quarterback. I just think Drew Pine kind of bringing back the ghost of Ian Book and that offense, kind of making him move, keeping the plays alive. Michael Mayer, who's on one leg, and some of their other receivers who are actually pretty good. I think Notre Dame covers this rather handily.
And how many bucks?
500.
Oh, Casey is the big.
I got to get back in. I got to get back in this thing, or bankrupt myself and then don't have to pick anymore.
Or you can be the host and let Zach
play.
John Chansey says he's all over Temple and the points. Chansey, I think you're under 500, so I'm not sure if
you feel good about that, Marty.
I feel good about that, really. Yeah. Okay. Next pick. Tennessee -9.5, minus 108 versus South Carolina. Risky pick, right, fellas? Because Tennessee, who knows what you're going to get? But we know what we're going to get out of South Carolina, probably around 10 points. I think Tennessee can score 20. I know Tennessee's defense is not great and gives up a lot, but we're talking South Carolina's struggle bus with Troy and East Carolina, for that matter. So I'm thinking South Carolina's going to score around 10 or 13, and I think Tennessee can score 24 points and beat South Carolina. Did you see the social media? Tennessee, the black uniforms and the black face masks? Those boys are ready to roll. They're going to roll over South Carolina, and then they're going to play somebody in the SEC and get crushed. But some real SEC team and get crushed. And for this one, I am going to say 250 sluggo bucks. Man, I'm on a roll. All right, that's 450. Somebody's in danger. Danger.
No danger yet.
Things are looking up.
Okay.
I got the under.
I'm surprised both of you don't have the under, no matter what it is, right? All right, Zach, pick number 2.
Let's see here. This is I'm sorry, Ohio State. I was looking at it wrong. Okay, so yeah, I have Ohio State covering the 21-point spread here at home. Looked like a more complete team as of late, although it was Rutgers. But the defense and the offense is kind of working together. I scored 52 points last week. I like that. Maryland just looked pitiful last week. I don't see this being a bounce-back game at Ohio State. You know, they had, like I said earlier, 7 turnovers. 5 of them were interceptions to his brother, we're just going to call him to his brother. Did not look very good, obviously. Also, Maryland's leading receiver, Dante Demarius, is out for the year with injury. Led them in receptions and yardage. So it's going to be a tough road to hoe going to the horseshoe, I think. So I got to bet a lot on this because this is the one I'm the most confident about, but still not confident. God. 700. Oh God.
That hurt.
700. Hey, I think you're probably in pretty good shape because I think Ohio State's on a mission to crush everybody and get back in in the playoffs. So
I wish I saw that line in my looking. I would have definitely hit that hard. That would have been a parlay for me, definitely.
Hit it hard. Beef, pick number 2 for you, bud.
I'm skipping my second one. I'm going to my third one right now. East Carolina +10 at UCF. And I'm literally picking this game because East Carolina played South Carolina really hard. And I believe that even though it's at the bounce house, I just think I don't trust UCF without Dylan Gabriel. I know Gus is there. I know that team's pretty good. They'll probably contend for that AAC title against Cincinnati. I just think East Carolina doesn't necessarily win the game, but I think that 10 points, I think they have enough to scare the Gus bus. So I'm going to take East Carolina for 250 Sluggo bucks.
Man, you got
I was going to add the 50 cents to that, but I'll leave it. I'll leave it up.
Okay.
Just in case it hits.
You might need that 50 cents in a
I
couple
know.
weeks.
I know. It might be my bet.
Oh, that's funny. Okay, I'm debating on whether to go third or skip mine to the end to keep the drama building here.
You can skip that.
Yeah.
The drama is great.
I love the drama.
The drama is great. Zach, your third and final pick.
All right, my third pick. And again, this was I picked this because you guys were picking games. I felt like I had to pick one, but I have no idea why I picked it. Illinois +10. I think I'm going back to that week 0 game where Illinois won. And again, like I was telling you, I was looking at injuries. Graham Mertz is out. I thought he was good. Pop said he was bad. He is bad. So it really shouldn't really matter if he's out. I really don't know what's I'm even talking about at this moment. Put it down for 200. It's just I had a hard time picking.
They were hard. They were hard today.
200.
200. So your total is 1,000 Sluggo bucks. And the lesson learned from Graham Mertz, is that his name?
Yeah.
And Jack Cohn is, if there's a Wisconsin quarterback in the portal, don't take him. Right?
Clearly.
Yeah. So that's where I'm going with that. All right, Casey, your third and final pick.
My third and final pick, I'm going to the ACC because that's where the money is to be made. Georgia Tech looked fantastic 2 weeks ago when they put a whooping on North Carolina, only to poop the proverbial bed last week against Pitt. Is Pitt really good? I don't know. Is North Carolina not good? I don't know. Is Georgia Tech literally? I don't know what they are. I don't even know what the adjective is. I'm going Georgia Tech -3.5, even though the juice is not really worth the squeeze here at Duke. And I'm putting 1,000 Sluggo bucks on it.
Oh, let's go.
I am so convinced that Georgia Tech's going to put it on Duke.
The juice is not worth the squeeze.
So Beef has 1,750 on the line. And he'll be reaching out during the week, Zach, to borrow bucks from me and you.
And also reaching out to you to say, who did I pick?
Yes, definitely. Even
Yeah.
though I send it to you later tonight.
Oh, yeah. No, I have it.
And you confirm it. There's a guy at my work. Do you work with me? Because there's a guy. We had a meeting, and then after the meeting that happened 5 minutes ago, he's asking me, did she say this? And did she say that? I'm like, were you even there, dude? What the heck's going on? Let's see.
One of those meetings that could have been an email. I mean, that's what he's saying.
Right.
Chancey says North Carolina home equals good. North Carolina on the road equals bad.
That's in response to my Georgia Tech versus North Carolina.
Okay, guys, let's see. How many bucks do I have out on the line here? 450 for I make the final pick, and I decide the winner. Okay. Michigan State has done me right before by taking it to Miami. Miami's been my best bet against Miami this year. But they're giving 5 at Rutgers. The juice is 109. I think Rutgers is going to struggle to score, and I think Michigan State eventually wears them down. I thought about this on a money line because it was plus 200, and I'm kind of feeling like it may be a close game. Do you think there's enough in there to win by a touchdown or heck, even 2 field goals if you're Michigan State? So I have what I say, 450 Sluggo bucks on the line. I don't know who's going to win this bet, but I'm really happy you guys did it because I think it's making the show. All 3 of our viewers are happy about this. Okay, 450. Michigan State's done me right. I'm going to go really big here. Michigan State -5 at Rutgers for 300 Sluggo bucks. 750 total. Who won?
The over.
The over hit. I had you at the under.
What'd you have? What'd you think the under? What'd you think I was going to bet?
I looked at the spreadsheet. I had
That's
you at
terrible.
595 to give you an even number.
It's so out of character.
Yeah, look at your number.
We thought there was no chance you were getting a 595.
No way.
All right. So both of you lost?
Yeah.
Yes.
Isn't that
You
what
win
it's
again, Marty. You win again.
That is the perfect outcome. I couldn't ask for a better result. And you two momos bet on the same thing. What the heck?
Well, it was an agreeable line we set.
Yeah, we didn't really. We didn't discuss it too much, you know.
All right, Beef. You said there's no chopping beef tomorrow. You have a big date with the missus.
That's right. It's a big 4th wedding anniversary for me and Mrs. Beef. So we're going to go to dinner with my 4-year-old or 3-year-old son. I don't want to make him 4 quite yet. So it'll be a very romantical trying to keep the slider in his chair while we're trying to eat.
Very romantic food fight. All right. And I posted today your story. Zach, did you read Beef's story today on SeldomUsedReserve.com?
I have it bookmarked. Let's put it that way.
Along with the other 2?
Yeah.
All right. Great article, Beef. Appreciate you doing that. SeldomUsedReserve.com is called My 2 Cents, which ironically is what Casey has left in this contest we're doing here. I think that's where you got the name from, right? So
It is.
does it. I'm not trying to do it every week, but we're a growing business and we got families and things happen. So whenever you get to it, but I appreciate you doing that. John Chancey's writes over there. I think last week, John Chancey wrote 3,275 words. He said he's going to take this week off, just like the Tigers. I said, you know, that was like 9 articles for Priester. So, yes, you can have the week off. Enjoy your time, John Chancey. I appreciate your contributions. Casey, you want to thank the people before we get out of here?
Yeah, thanks so much to everyone in the Facebook group, especially Nelson Wilhite for all his help and support, John Chancey for his work on SeldomUsedReserve.com, and everyone on Seldom Used Reserve, Sluggo, and each and every one of you who listens, likes, and participates in our show. On behalf of Marty, Seldom Used Reserve Coleman, Zach Locks Parker, I am Casey the Beef Cregan. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you next week right here on Sluggo.
Look, it's easier this way. Thanks, Beef. Thanks, Locks. Y'all have a good night.
See you.
I think we're done here.